All right, everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. We're here with artist Megan Toole, who you know from a couple of the arts, Planting, the Great Oak promo card, Churn, and she is signing some cards for us for MomoCon. Will you show one of the cards that you're signing? So these are the cards that, grab this one, are going to be available at MomoCon. Woo! It's like super out of focus when I do that. There we go. These are the cards that are going to be available at MomoCon. You can get them signed or unsigned. She's only signing 100, so we're going to have 1,000 of those exclusive Momo cards available, but only 100 of them signed by the artist. And Megan was nice enough to come and do some interviews with us and answer some questions about just being an artist in general and specifically being an artist for our game. So one of the first questions I wanted to ask was just like, what got you interested in art in the first place?
So I think one of the first things that got me interested in art in the first place would be like fan art. So even before I knew fan art was a thing, I would create art of characters that I watched on shows and movies, and I would use those as like dolls or action figures with my sister. So yeah, I think that's where it started, and then I got into DeviantArt in high school and became a part of that community.
Yeah, I remember DeviantArt from high school too. I never actually made art on it. I just like to look at other people's art. So you've been doing art for a long time. Many years?
How many years?
Yeah.
If we're to guesstimate, about 25.
Oh, wow.
Like, maybe not seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, for most of my life.
Okay, that's awesome. So who are your biggest artistic influences?
I think an early influence was Beatrix Potter, who did Peter Rabbit, I think.
Okay, I was going to say that name sounds familiar. Peter Rabbit?
I've always been interested in animals, nature, and so anthropomorphic art I really liked. I was into Sonic the Hedgehog in high school. I guess when I went to college, I became interested in sort of older artists like Caspar David Friedrich, I believe his name was, and that was in the Romanticism period. So it was like somewhat realistic, but also kind of crazy at the same time.
Cool. I don't know that artist. I've never heard of that one before.
His art is actually on a sleeve that Dragon Force did. They did like some reissue of art, and this is one that has like a dragon over the back of like some.
Oh, you mean the band Dragon Force? Or no? I'm sorry. Dragon Shields?
Yes.
Oh, the sleeves. The sleeves. That's so funny because there actually is a band called Dragon Force, and all of their like CD covers are art. So that's. Okay, yeah, Dragon Shields. That's cool. It's also, in the same realm of gaming that we're in. And so, like, you're someone that you are inspired by is also doing art for gaming stuff. So, how do you develop your skills?
I think the best way to develop skills is to not necessarily copy art, but copy styles. So pick whatever subject you want and then decide on a style of a different artist. So I like to push it with, sometimes I do really hyper-realistic, and other times I want to do something that is, more cartoonish.
So I've seen some people on social media that will draw like Elsa 5 different ways.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like what you're talking about? They'll draw it the way like Tim
Absolutely.
Burton would do it. They'll draw it the way it would look in the Powerpuff Girls,
Because then you know what you're more comfortable with, and then you can see other sides of yourself that you didn't think you were possible.
That's so cool. Is there a particular style that you like to mimic the most? I feel like for me, if I was an artist, which I am not, I would do the Tim Burton style. That would be me.
I'm trying to think.
Or is there an artist that you think your style is most similar to?
I can't think of any off the top
That's
of my
okay.
head right now.
Your style is most similar to Megan Toole.
I think so, yeah.
I like that. So what is your favorite medium that you've ever worked in?
I think I enjoy oil painting the most because it's just really rewarding. I love how easy it is to blend in that. The only problem is that it's not very forgiving. You know, you can't erase and you don't have layers to work with, which is a big advantage to digital art that I really like.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many oil paintings have you done?
About like 20 or so.
Oh, wow.
I did quite a few in college, and I'm still painting right now on the side.
Oh, cool. Do those take a long time?
They do. Most of them take a while because I'm trying to get more detailed in my art.
Okay, awesome. And then how has your style changed over time?
Definitely, I've started putting more detail in things, but not just recently. When I was in middle school, I got glasses for the first time, and when that happened, I realized there was a lot more detail in the world that I couldn't see, and I wanted to mimic that in what I was drawing. So trees, I started putting leaves in there, you know?
One of our patrons made a comment. He said if you're willing, he'd like to see some of your oil paintings, if we can get like pictures of them or something to show them.
Absolutely.
He said if you're comfortable.
Yeah, I can do that.
Was there more you wanted to add on to the how did your style change over time?
I think it just fluctuates back and forth between realism and then like a graphic novel or anime because I feel like I take them both.
Do you prefer drawing like people and animals or like scenery?
I love nature, so I do scenery and animals most. I think character art is really cool, but people are intimidating. So I mostly draw and paint animals right now.
That's cool. And that's mostly what you've done for us too. But we do have one figure. And that actually brings me to a question that we had on Facebook. I believe we had a question. If you've ever used Procreate, and if you have, do you have any advice on someone who's trying to learn Procreate?
I have not used Procreate before, and that's mainly because I got hooked on Adobe products in college. And I ended up buying the Adobe suite for subscribing to it because you don't get to buy the whole thing like you used to.
And even when you could, it was expensive. Yeah. I was the same way when I was in college, just got the little student subscription. Okay, so that actually brings me to some questions about these cards right here. Would you mind showing this one on this camera? So we're going to start talking about planting. That's just to remind you guys of which card we're going to start talking about. This was the first piece that you did for us. Let me see if I can get a good... It will not focus. There we go. Planting. So something about this card that I loved when I first saw it was the little pumpkins. I am a basic girl, love my pumpkin spice lattes in the fall. So when I saw that, I was just like, oh my God, these are the cutest pumpkins I've ever seen. I love how, like, the shape of the edge of the pumpkin is just so whimsical. So that was the first thing that jumped out to me was these pumpkins. And unfortunately, I got cut off on the side. I loved, there was like a little pumpkin and like, is that a radish over here? And I got cut off and I was upset about it. So that was the first thing that jumped to my mind was the pumpkins. And then Ken, I remember, made a comment, because we saw a couple drafts of it where it was like a sketch, basic coloring, and then you sent us the final version with these like light spots and the light coming through. And he and I were both just like, it was already amazing. I never would have thought to put those little dots of light, and now all of a sudden it's like I never would have thought to do that, and somehow it made it even better. You remember that? So can you just like walk us through your thought process when you were making this piece?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually did the pumpkins first because it was the thing I was most excited about.
I like to hear that.
I think the main challenge was just getting the angle right on it.
The perspective.
I wanted to see the roots under it, but I also wanted to see the whole garden. And as far as like the dots and everything filtering through there, I thought it would give it that enchanted look because I wasn't sure if I was really getting that. Like I tried to push limits with colors, but I thought that would help bring it out more.
You did a great job. Can you talk to me more about like this little guy in the middle? Is this supposed to be, is it like a flower?
I tried to do a type of thistle. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a flower or some sort of herbs. I think I was actually inspired by Breath of the Wild. There's like this mighty thistle that you can harvest,
Cool.
so it's based on that.
I love it. I love planting. I think the printing of it, I think, is actually reversed to the original artwork.
Yeah, it is.
And the reason why is because of the pumpkins. I loved the pumpkins, and just like the way that the card frame hit, this like stat bar completely covered the pumpkins, but when we flipped it, it didn't cover the cabbages. So I was like, oh, perfect, wonderful. I lost my little pumpkin over here, but that's okay. But we flipped it because I was just like, Ken, I'm not sending that to print with my beautiful pumpkins, her beautiful pumpkins covered. So that's planting. Love it. And honestly, this is a card that's going to be played a ton. It's so versatile in the green like archetype in Earth. So that one's going to see lots of play for many years to come. Next, can you show them? I think this is the next one you did, right? Like chronologically. Go back over to Discord. I want to make sure I didn't miss any questions. So this is the Great Oak, which was, I think, the first epic card that we spoiled. And so this is the shrine for the Earth faction from set 1. In the lore, this card is really important because the sword is kind of like Excalibur in like Arthurian legend, but it's like our version of it. And so, the Great Oak is a guardian. It's like a protector of this great sword, and it's a huge part of the lore. So one of the questions on the Patreon was, how does it feel being like the one person that's going to bring all of the lore? He said, how does it feel to carry it all on your shoulders? I don't know if it's all on your shoulders, but definitely putting a picture to the story. Does that add any pressure when you're doing a card that carries like so much story like the Great Oak?
It does add some pressure. I don't feel like I'm necessarily doing it all alone, because there's so many other artists working on this and they have their own interpretations of it. But yeah, the sword was definitely a challenge to come up with. Trees, totally comfortable with. I've been doing them for years, but I don't really. Swords are something that's like out of my skill set.
I think I remember didn't you draw the sword by itself like 3 or 4 times before you actually put it in the tree?
Yeah.
I remember seeing like 3 or 4 sketches of the whole sword so that you could get an idea of what the whole sword looked like before you actually buried it in a bunch of roots. Thought that was brilliant. One of the other questions we had was, have you accidentally created more lore? And that's what I was going to allude to, was we didn't give you the actual card X, which is the Excalibur card. That being said, you went ahead and drew X for us before you put it on this card. And we ended up taking those sketches and giving them to Kayla, who did Griffin, because in that artwork, he's actually holding the sword. So, I don't know if Megan knows this, but you definitely designed what the sword was going to look like without actually being assigned what the sword was going to look like. And we ended up taking her idea and giving it to Kayla when Kayla was actually doing the art for Griffin. So she like mimicked the hilt that like you came up with and is your design and everything. So now your little brainchild's going to be on multiple pieces of art.
Hopefully it stands the test of time.
It will. I know that like the one side has like that serrated edge and the other side is flat. I never would have thought of that. I saw it and I was like, yeah, that's perfect. It's like such a mighty sword, and I never would have thought to draw that. Tell me about the bird on this card. I didn't notice the bird the first time because it was like brown the first time and blended in with the tree, and then you sent it back blue, and I was like, oh my god, there's a bird there. It's so cute.
Well, I think the inspiration or what I used for this one, I think was a Carolina wren as like the base of it, and then I went from there. The brown one blended in a lot, but it seemed like a really good idea because I have some flying in the background.
Yes,
so
to like really give the tree like depth and height.
Right,
yeah.
But yeah, blue just seemed like the right color, and I think he's pretty cute.
Oh yeah, he's very cute. He's very fluffy. It kind of reminds me of the little birds that are flying around in like the 3rd Harry Potter movie by the clock. I don't know if you've seen that, but there's 2 little birds that fly around by the clock, and that's what made me think of. There's another version of this card that is used for, it's not printed yet, but it's going to be printed for our Patreon exclusive promo card. Can you hold this up so they can see it?
Absolutely.
I don't know how that's going to show up on camera.
It's a little glare, but I think they can see it.
All right, and I'll show it over to our recording camera. Oh yeah, you can see that. So this is the Great Oak promo that's going to be on the first, I think it's the spring Patreon promo for all of the Slayer Squad and Epic tier patrons. I lost my stuff when I saw this artwork. The first thing I said when I saw it was, I was like, how does Megan keep getting better? I was like, every single piece she sends us keeps getting like not just like a little better, like significantly better from art to art. And I was like, it's only been like a month and her skill is just like skyrocketed. And the other thing I said was, I didn't know those colors existed. This like gray and green, like how did you come up with that color scheme? I never would have thought to do that.
Well, let me think. Because the leaves that are falling down have almost like a reddish maroon color in them, and I think the green juxtaposed to that really brings it out well.
And I love this bright green in the middle that's kind of like
that neon,
like a poison almost. Yeah. And then there's so many details you put in this. There's like little spider webs and like cobwebs all around it, and then the little mushrooms. It just really gives you this feeling of like decay and just destruction to this shrine. Just wonderful.
It was really fun to create.
Yeah. Was there, I don't know, what was your thought process looking at this one and then coming up with this one?
First of all, it seemed like a lot less pressure because the sword is something that needs to be very precise, you know, with all the straight lines and sheens. With this, I felt like I could kind of get my hands sturdy, so to speak.
Do you feel like you are able to be like more creative with like a darker, sinister theme versus like a happy, bubbly one?
I think so, yeah.
I just love this one. It's my favorite one. No offense to the other arts, they're also beautiful. And then, let me see, because there were a couple comments that just popped up on the Discord. Oh, I'm on the wrong channel. 1 second. Stream. Let's see. It's the spring. Oh yeah, one of the patrons that's on there didn't sign up fast enough to get that promo. He's sad about it. Oh yeah, they were talking about other things. All right, will you show them this one? I think this is the last one. This is Churn. This is the most recent one that you've done for us. This one's only maybe like a month old since we got it, maybe 2 months old. This is the first like character art we had you do. Focus on the card. There we go. And we had you do like 3 runes in the water because in the game you're like cycling 3 things. I also liked her haircut. I thought that was a really nice added touch. One of the things that we haven't really been able to get into because we've only done maybe 4 or 5 characters so far. We've had like Planting and the Great Oak and there's another card called Lightlance that don't have any people in them. And Ken and I have talked a lot about like diversity in the game and wanting to make sure we have enough, like a mix of men and women, a mix of different races, a mix of different just ways that people look. And I thought that this one to me kind of came across as like androgynous. And I liked that representation. And we didn't ask you to do that. You just kind of came up with it. And I was like, perfect, run it. Was there a particular reason why you gave her more of that androgynous look?
Well, from what I understood, the craftsmen do take on a more masculine persona. I actually modeled the haircut after a haircut that my sister has.
Oh.
And I always saw her as a very strong, hardworking person.
Aw.
So I kind of channeled that and put that in there.
Okay, so this is almost like a little homage to your sister, in a way. At least the hair.
Yeah.
Is her hair this like silvery color too?
She dyes it a lot, but she did dye it a silver color before it, and I thought it was so gorgeous. So yeah, I was really excited to use that.
I love these little fun facts like, oh, the hair was actually after my sister, and oh, I wanted to do the pumpkins because I love drawing pumpkins, you know. And then this particular, like I had mentioned, is the first time that you've done a figure drawing for us. Does your like inspiration and your artistic process change when you're doing a character versus like a scenery?
I I don't know, because when I'm doing scenery, I'm still looking up the types of trees that I want to use, and I guess with a figure, you have to go more closely by a reference photo, because with trees and swords, you kind of get to make up something, you know?
Did you use a reference photo for Churn?
For churn, I actually took a picture of like my own body for the pose, and then kind of inserted my sister's hair on it. And
Oh, okay.
I compiled a bunch of references for it.
Is that ever awkward, like drawing a picture based off of yourself?
No, it actually makes me feel better, because if it's based off someone else and I mess it up, then I feel really bad.
Yeah.
But if it's myself, it's fine.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's funny you bring that up because when Ken and I commissioned Griffin the Fourth, which is not an artwork that you did, we sent that artist a picture of me in the pose because like we went back and forth a couple times and like we just couldn't put it into words what pose we were trying to describe. So I was like, let's just send her a picture. And so we sent her a picture of me like posing with a broom instead of the sword. So I like to hear that you are also doing something similar when you're doing art on your end. All right, so that's all the questions I had for you. If there's any more questions in the Discord or just like anything you want to say to Megan before we sign off, we've got, again, the Momo card promos are going to be available at MomoCon in Atlanta, Georgia, which is May 26th through the 29th. I heard a ding. I don't know if that means there was a question come through. But yeah. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask about the MomoCon card because you actually added a little piece of art to that one. Hold it up right here. Ah. The like banner with the two birds. Will you show it to that camera too? Of course. Oh, and we forgot to talk about the logo. We're not done yet at all. Holy cannoli. I know. Well, I had the cards laid out and I forgot to flip a card over.
Yeah.
So I think Ken, the game designer, gave you a little bit more instruction on this one, whereas the other ones you kind of had like artistic freedom to kind of do whatever. But I think he was pretty like, make it Disney, make it a banner, make it two birds. Was there anything else that you added to it? Did you like doing that little added thing?
I thought this was really fun. The Disney thing kind of threw me for a loop because I was like, does he mean like Disney style or like Disney lore?
Yeah.
You know? But it came together very well because I just used the same birds that I had used, and then I did a color sample from them for the MomoCon logo that I put in there. That way it would kind of match.
Yeah, the MomoCon letters look just like the logo for MomoCon. I saw that and I was like, oh, perfect, wonderful. I'm so excited to see like just what the people at MomoCon, how they receive the artwork, and if they're excited about it. We'll definitely let you know what the feedback is. And then, of course, the back of the card, duh. I can't believe I forgot Miss Megan did our logo for the whole flippin' game. Grab it here. The Flawed logo. This one, I'm trying to remember. I feel like we went back and forth on this one a little bit, but not much. I think maybe by like the third iteration, we were like, yeah, that's perfect. And I wasn't there for the conversation when Ken was telling you like what he wanted. How do you, I mean, I feel like a logo is so much pressure because you know it's going to be on like every product. So like what was your creative process coming up with that?
I basically did a lot of research. I looked at a lot of fantasy mobile games because there are so many out there. And I saw that a lot of them had like these stone backgrounds or the lettering was made out of stones. I did the lettering as gold based off the principle of you can sort of mend things through gold. I don't know what practice it is, but it's like this Japanese practice where if they break a vase, they fill it in with gold.
Yes. I don't know what it's called either, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I thought that would kind of go along with Flawed.
Oh, that is so cute. I love that. I would have never known that if I didn't ask you. I know what you're talking about because in Japanese culture, it's supposed to highlight that like imperfections are also beautiful.
Yeah, it makes you stronger.
Yeah, and so they fill in the cracks with this like bright, vibrant gold. And honestly, I think it does look better when you fill it with gold. Oh my God, that is so adorable. I love that. And then you came out with a version that had like light around the letters and also like a paint splatter. I don't remember if Ken told you this or not. I think he did. But we hadn't told anyone that the word flawed came from fire, light, air, water, earth, dark. that was kind of like an Easter egg that we were leaving. And I told him, I said, once the game goes out to like a larger audience, they're gonna figure it out. It's not, yeah. It was just our little community of like 50 or 60 people hadn't figured it out yet. And he sent you the logo, and you didn't know what the 6 factions were, but you came back and you're like, I noticed there's 6 letters in Flawed. What are the 6 factions again? And I was like, see, give it to an artist, and she'll pick up on it right away. He's like, funny you mentioned that. And so I was like, just tell her, have her design it, because I loved the idea of having each letter like the color of the faction. He wanted to keep it a secret though. Did you like that little Easter egg when we told you?
I thought it was so awesome. At the time, I was kind of grabbing for anything because I wasn't sure how to make the logo relevant to the game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was perfect.
I mean, when Ken and I came up with that name, we took the first letter of each of the elements and just shuffled them around to see what words we could come up with. And this was after going through like 100 names that we didn't like, by the way. And we thought it was so perfect because, like, in the game, the cards are 2 pieces. I'm going to put this in front of the camera. So it's like the cards are flawed, the characters and lore are flawed, and trying to decide, like, do I want to stick with my faction or learn some from a different faction next door? And then the letters all were the elements. And now I love that I can add in the gold and the tie into that like Japanese practice. Just another element of like how this word flawed like is so pervasive amongst the different things. Anyway, so that's actually all the questions I had for you. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say while I've got the camera going?
I guess the only thing I want to say is that I've really enjoyed doing these pieces, and through doing them, I've learned a lot because I don't usually work in digital. I really love it, but I was never pushed to do digital. And since doing digital, I've found out ways to transfer what I know in like painting over to digital, and so it's been really rewarding in so many ways, and being able to see them in card form is so awesome.
You just saw your first card today. What did you think? First impression?
It looks so good. I'm gonna hang it on the wall when I get home.
Oh yeah, make sure you put it in a sleeve. Keep it nice. And you saw your logo on the playmat. I showed that to you earlier. And we don't have the banner, but we have your logo like this big for everybody to see. And so I mean, I'm excited. I know that if you're up for it, we're gonna ask you to do so many more pieces of art because we have 140 cards that need artwork. 150, so I hope your hand doesn't get tired because we're going to need your skills a lot longer. All right, well, thank you everyone on Discord for joining and everyone on YouTube. I mean, if you have any other questions, you can always put them in the comments below and maybe Megan can get to answering them. And we hope to see you at MomoCon and you can get some of these wonderful signed cards. All right, thank you.